like
have
Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, they're trusted to build the kinetic weapons,
right.
and the weapon
Well, I mean,
systems and platforms. They're
they
not
they
trusted. They're not trusted to deliver the software, and there's a good reason for
yeah.
that. I mean, in fact, you uncovered a lot of the reasons that took place in the videos where Palantir was fighting with the U.S. Army and like their own homegrown solution. I think for a long
Hmm.
time, like the military thought it could build its own software. Like we don't need you. We can build our own software to do. But like think about that because
Yeah.
what is a general's primary responsibility? You know,
Yeah.
like what do they sit around and do all day? They're like moving
Yeah.
people. They're
Pieces
moving the
around.
pieces on the test on the board, right? They're moving the
Yeah.
chessboard pieces. Well, like if I was a fucking egotistical general who thought that was my job, I would be like, no way in hell anyone's building the software, but fucking my team. My team's building the
Yeah.
software, motherfucker. That's gonna be my
Yep.
team because that's my win. That's what I'm here to do. And you
The
can see it by the videos you put out and the research you
mhm.
did that they were very much fighting those kind of battles. It was not
Yeah.
a civil uh, disagreement over areas like where you can measure like this software is better than the other. It was very much an uncivil conversation about like you're fucking with my area over here, dude.
Well, believe it or not, the it was more, and this is where I hate the military sometimes. It all comes down to the almighty dollar, right? So the incentive was, how do you extend out this product so that you can get as much money, like milk the taxpayer as much as you could possibly do it. That's why they give you like a $5 billion bid, and then by the end of the project, it's turned
That
into
was
a
the
$50 billion
process, right?
monstrosity.
Like
Yeah,
Palmer Luckey calls that out a lot. Like the
yeah.
procurement process was broken because like companies weren't coming to you with a working product and saying, "Hey, buy this." They were like, "No, let's just like sign on to this contract where we'll like develop this thing over time and I get baked in a profit margin." So
Mm-hmm.
like the suppliers were incentivized to make it drag on as much as they could, and like
And that's the problem, right? Where you had
yeah,
all these military software companies constantly making products that were, like one of those things where you constantly needed to keep doing more and more and more to it so that they would
yeah.
drag that
But like,
contract
where's the
on.
ego trip for the
Yeah.
general who gets to say like, "Oh, I was part of this 10-year program. I directed it."
Yeah.
It's like that fucking. No, I'm not gonna make a Star Wars parallel, but like, I'm just saying that there is this thing where people who are in charge of all that budget and all that money, their outcomes are directly tied to the success of those programs. They're not disconnected anymore. And so, like for them, it's not like if Palantir comes in and says, "Hey, no, we actually have a functional product. We don't need you involved. Like it works. It just works out of the box." Like that could really piss a lot of people off,
Yeah.
because now
And
they're
most
not
of
the ones
yeah.
responsible for it.
Yeah, and most of them, I hate to say this, have special relationships with defense contractors where they're set up with a nice cushy job after they leave. There's no restrictions on generals leaving the military and then joining the boards of defense contractors.
That happens
So
all the time. Yeah.
that's the other thing too. So a lot of times where, it's almost like you scratch my back when you're in service, and then once you get out, I got your back, and you can join the board. Like an example, like our Secretary of Defense right now, Lloyd Austin, Raytheon. He was on Raytheon's board.
Crazy.
You don't think as the defense secretary,
Yeah.
we're like, hey, listen, I got a couple of missiles here and there that would be really swell to use, and point. And that's the other thing too. Like when it comes to legislators can bake in wording that can exclude contractors out and bring contractors in. So right
Yeah.
now, if you look at Palantir, they need to make sure that they have really good political connections on the Hill. Otherwise, they can literally
They've
have
been doing that though,
legislation.
right? Though they've
Yeah,
been bringing
yeah,
in all these. I mean, I've been watching the people they're bringing in on the defense side, and
yep,
they're doing a great. I think they're doing a great job executing on that front.
yeah.
To be
See,
honest,
see, yeah, but see, the problem, Coach Strap, is I love the government side, but what about commercial? Like
that's
separate
what I always come
commercial.
back to. Is like that. This is why you need to separate commercial. Like think about all
Yeah,
the shit we just talked about. Like that is a fucking turd sandwich if there ever was one. Like having to
yeah,
deal with all of that. Like why is that getting like it is getting in the way? Why is it getting in the way? Because it affects your strategy. Like
mm-hmm,
if your strategy is, and we can draw a parallel fucking line here. How Karp is very much on the fence of like, I'm not going to give this software to everyone, but it's like he's operating in the mindset that everything's Gotham. It's not. He's just probably tied up in that. But it is
yeah,
directly affecting their commercial growth. And honestly, like the best thing they could ever do for this company would do like an AWS kind of split. Like AWS had the bookstore and AWS had Amazon Web Services, and they decided at a very early time, like, it's better to let these two companies evolve separately. I think that's what needs to happen here, and let the government side evolve, because especially as we go into a highly confrontational time, like, what is the debate going to look like in America if we're debating war in Taiwan 6 months from now and Palantir's in the middle of that fucking shitstorm? Where
Yeah.
America's bound by treaty to go and actually help this country. Do you want your commercial business tied up in that? I don't fucking don't. Like, I wouldn't want that.
One of the earliest indicators that we are definitely headed into at least a at least a Cold War scenario with China is the Chips Act, right? One of the things that you have to really take into consideration is all the reshoring of jobs that's happening from China. A lot of people diversifying their supply chains out of China, but mostly high tech manufacturing. That should be the canary in the coal mine as to what the US policy is going to look like in the future. And I think that's one of the bets that Pat Gelsinger is making over at Intel, saying TSMC is not going to be able to be an independent company. And literally by I don't know. I can't say when China's gonna invade because China has a plan. Like they're literally set on it. They probably even have a timetable set. And the minute that the U.S. blinks, they're gonna invade and they're gonna say, "Go ahead, America, do something about it." And TSMC is gonna lose access to ASML, all their technology, all that stuff is gonna get dropped because of national security reasons. And guess what? You can't have a functioning economy without semiconductor. Look around, everyone in the chat right now. Look around
Yeah.
your room right
The
now and
Raptors don't
tell,
fly without chips. Your phone
yeah,
doesn't work without chips. It's a
yeah.
direct national security threat to the United States. Yeah.
Everyone right now. You have tons of chips just surrounding you right now. All probably
Let me
majority
ask
of
you
them
this.
probably
Let me
came
ask
from
you this.
yeah.
Like, if
Hmm.
the CHIPS Act was the canary in the coal mine, why did they give like 5 times more money to funding ML and AI research than they did to building foundries in the United States?
Well, that's because they want to maintain that technological lead, right, against the Chinese, right?
I don't know, man, but I agree with you on some level, but at the same time, we have a bunch of idiots running our government, because if they knew, like, it should have been 250 billion dollars went to foundries and 50 million went to ML and AI research, and there shouldn't even been an ML and AI research provision in there at all,
Yeah.
because, like, if you actually look at how much money went into it, like, that is a drop in the fucking bucket of what it's going to take to get foundries spun up here that actually compete with the ones in Taiwan, or the ones that exist
Yeah.
already with TSMC. So, like, in my opinion, that was just like, God, like, if they had passed that bill 10 years ago, maybe, and they had ixnayed the 250 billion on ML and AI research, then yeah. But, like, it just really shows how unserious our Congress is about facing this threat, and what that could potentially mean 3 years from now in a prolonged war in Taiwan and in Europe. What we all as Americans could be facing as true hardships, right? Like real hardships. Like, you don't have a job, you're not making enough money, you're fucking homeless, your family's homeless. Like, these are things that happen during war, dude. You know.
Yeah.
And so I
We
really,
do.
really think people should pay
Yeah.
closer attention to what is actually happening in Congress, what are they doing, and holding people accountable for stupid fucking decision making. You know.
Yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
stakes are high. The stakes are super high. And
It's kind of
understands that is Alex
unfortunate.
Karp. Alex Karp is really good at this. Like, he understands
Yeah.
what's happening there. I love him running the government side, and he's a force for good on the government side. On the commercial side, I think it's a whole different set of concerns, and they're gonna have to find a way to move away from this. Because, like I said, like, this controversy is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as global conflict grows.
Yeah.
And Palantir cannot be at the center of this every time that something happens.
I think the West's reluctance to take direct kinetic action in Ukraine is a bad sign because now that emboldens China. Because now China says, "Oh, what's the worst they're going to do? They'll probably sanction us." They're sanctioning our supply chains, they're sanctioning this, sanctioning that.
Yep.
But
Yep.
will they get involved kinetically? No, because they didn't do it in Ukraine, so they probably
No.
won't do it in China.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, arguably, Ukraine is a bigger threat to the post-World War II, Western order than China invading Taiwan. 100%.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that that's not just an American failure. That is a failure of all NATO countries,
Yeah.
to prevent this problem. But history hasn't been written yet. We're in the middle of this thing. Who knows what's going to happen? We shouldn't presume right now Poland's not fucking around, and
Yeah.
Poland's a NATO member. You know, that military, by the way, is not a joke. Like, go look into their capabilities. They're not a fucking joke. This military can fight. They'll kick the shit out of Russia given the
Data
opportunity to
walk.
go to
They
Ukraine.
got data walk.
Like,
Data walk.
like
Just
what I'm
remember, guys.
but
Data
that's
walk.
also dangerous, right? Like, it's also very dangerous to have a highly trained, highly specialized military with the weaponry capable of defeating Russia, like with Russia on their doorstep. That's not a
Yeah.
good scenario, for anyone. So, but that's why this whole war in Ukraine is a bigger problem for the West, I think, than what breaks out in Taiwan. I think with Taiwan, it's really a commercial interest that's tied to that country that is driving, and in particular the semiconductor space,
Yeah.
that's really driving the national security threat.
One of the things that benefits us is that China has a weakened economy. If they didn't have a weakened
Yeah.
economy right now,
Well,
I
it's
don't
also what makes
necessarily.
them extremely dangerous, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we all know that economic collapse is not good when you have a strong military power.
Yeah, and especially if you're an authoritarian, because now you're looking for a way to distract your populace from real problems, and the easiest way to do it is by ringing up nationalism, right?
Yeah.
If your
Or
economy's faltering,
scapegoating.
just
Yeah.
go right into nationalism. There you go. Now instead of figuring out why your kids are going hungry, you're like, no, America's the reason because they put sanctions on us because we're trying to unite Taiwan again. That's why
Well,
we're
no,
having
that
all these
I don't
problems.
think that they even need to. China doesn't care about demonizing America. I think China just would, this the saber rattling around a new empire, you know, that would get the population excited, and that's they've been their one China policy, and
Yeah.
that's why they're pursuing it. I think that with Taiwan in particular, the thing that is particularly scary is what could happen to that region of the world, including Australia, as China projects its influence over all naval operations in that area. If China were to have a lock on that, it could really threaten partnerships with Indonesia, partnerships with Australia. The APAC region would be in complete jeopardy. We have nuclear powers in that region. Like, we cannot allow fucking nuclear war to break out. We cannot allow that to happen. And we're at the beginning stages of this now, but like I think that a lot of people have made bad arguments in the past that China does not have expansionist goals that have been
Yeah.
proven wrong. Like, they're just flat out wrong. Yes, they have expansionist goals. That is a zone of influence they plan to expand over time. And what that could mean to our partners in the APAC is catastrophic, you know. So what's going to happen there is going to be interesting. I think Palantir could what's happened in Ukraine with relation to Palantir should be adjusting the Chinese calculus. Like, if they are that good, if their intelligence is that good, and this means a 5-year protracted land war, can we do it?